Doesn't it seem lately like video game companies just don't have any respect for the players? It's like no matter what, they look for new ways to casually disrespect players despite the fact that they need our money to stay in business. Video games now are like $1 billion industry. Either they equal to or they pass the movies, cause probably pass since video games are like $60 to $70 a pop, and then the systems themselves are like half a G. And then you have to pay for online, you have to pay for an extra controller, you have to pay for electricity that powers the whole damn thing, and you gotta do is pay and pay and pay and pay. And yet these companies just don't seem to respect that our money is valuable to us. And you know whose fault that is? It's ours, the gamers, the consumers. Because the more they disrespect us to get our money, the more money we stupidly give these a-holes. When I was a kid in the 80s and the 90s, companies had to sell their game when it was finished, and they had to work hard to make sure it was the best game they knew how to make. You know why? Because there were no patches to fix shit later. How you bought it was how it was. And it wasn't no flimsy, easy to make CD either, or some computer program you could download. No, it was basically a whole little computer itself, a cartridge with chips and circuits and all of that cost them money. So they had to get it right. Because if it was whack, nobody was spending money on that crap. And even though we didn't have the internet, we all chilled at each other's cribs and around arcade machines, so words traveled fast if a game was whack. So we didn't have this, it's broken upon release, we're going to fix it later crap. We also didn't have this, here's some of the game, pay more for the rest of the game crap too. It's one thing if it's DLC that was truly adding to the game experience of an already overall complete game. Sort of like how Call of Duty, when it originally used to have all the maps and then they would think of new maps and add them into the game. You know, that made sense. But how they give you now a few maps and want you to pay 3 or 4 times the price you paid for the game for the rest of the game. And most of us do it again without thinking. WWE games used to come with the complete roster. Maybe 1 or 2 extra characters, you know, here or there you could play with, buy cheap. Now look what they do. They give you a crappy roster, and if you want to play with most of the stars you actually want to buy, you want to play with, you have to buy those character packs.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
The last game that really had good and honest DLC, I would say that I spent my money on, that I did not regret spending my money on, was Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man just added to the story that was in place and gave you new stories. The game itself was fire, and the new stories were just a continuation, little small stories. They weren't expensive DLC, and they added and gave you a little way to further that adventure. So it literally added to the game. The game was the game. This was an addition to the game. It wasn't a completion of the games, and that's how it should be. But if selling pieces of the game wasn't bad enough, now they add some new stuff where they reselling the game and calling it a remaster. Why should they spend their time thinking of a new story, new experience, new gameplay, new ideas in general, when all I can do is feed everybody member berries and sell the same damn game over and over and over and over and tell them it's a remaster? And then when we get sick of that and we start to realize that's what they're doing, they say, oh, this is the last remaster. Let's call it the definitive edition. So that we'll think, well, it got to be at least one new element in this game. And it really ain't nothing worth spending money on. But we supposedly must have it on top of the 3 other copies on multiple systems that we already own. These companies lost respect for us because we lost respect for ourselves. We kept giving them our money and never demanding quality. We complain online and on forums and shit, but let's be honest, to them, that's like a baby crying that doesn't want to go to sleep. They're like, let it cry itself to sleep. We already got their money. In the end, it's going to take something hard for us to get these companies to go back to treating us like hard-earned customers. When crappy ass EA tried to pull what they tried to pull with Star Wars, that level of respect or level of lack of respect got the government involved on them. That's the only reason they said, all right, we better chill, we went too far, and ended up giving us the rest of the game for the price we should have gotten it for in the first place. Free, as in already paid for. It's going to take gamers and players...
Hey! Stop it. Stop it. Okay. All right.
That's the only reason they said, all right, we better chill, we went too far, and ended up giving us the rest of the game for the price we should have gotten it for in the first place. Free, as in already paid for. It's going to take gamers and players doing the same thing on every level to get the gaming industry back on track, because right now they are really just clapping the gamers' cheeks every chance they get, and that shit ain't cool at all. If you think them not listening to us over Saints Row is something, I mean, they're not listening to us over anything, and yet we're still giving them our money. We got to do better. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know.